I don't care how clean you eat or how many steps you take. If you're over 40 and if you're not focusing on these three things, you are aging faster than you think. I'm going to be breaking down the three essential pillars that you must dial in if you're over 40. So you can stop going downhill and you can stay strong, resilient, and fired up for decades to come. Most of today's fitness trends are usually cosmetic, misleading, and sometimes just downright unsafe. Why should you listen to me? I'm Ramona. I'm the Hot Mom Coach, and I'm a 44-year-old mom. So I've helped hundreds of women get in the best shape of their lives, but also get lean, get strong, get confident as they age. So I'm here to share my secrets of my own evolution and exactly what's helped my clients achieve phenomenal results. So you don't waste your time and then you can just run with the blueprint. Why are we focusing on these three pillars? Because I have read enough books to know that if you focus on the needle movers, you're going to make massive progress. So if you're stretched thin, you're trying to keep up with the latest trends and you're trying to do everything, then you are going to be stuck forever and you can potentially hurt your body. If you just focus on these three pillars, you're going to set yourself up to be the strongest, the leanest, and the most resilient as you age. Number one is bone strength. 1 in every 2 women over 50 will break a bone because of osteoporosis. And this is basically a condition of weak bones. So that's 50% of women. And it gets worse, okay? If you have a hip fracture over 65, you're going to have surgery. Your risk of dying within a year is 30 to 35%. And without surgery, that's 70 to 80% within a year. Living with bone density is not fun. You're constantly living in fear about falling or fracturing something. Like a simple slip in the kitchen, you can break your wrist. Then it's months of recovery. And so what you do in your 30s and in your 40s can either pave the way for osteoporosis or stronger bones, okay? One of the two. Basically, our bones are constantly being broken down and rebuilt. They reach their peak when we are around 20s, like in our 20s. And once we hit that peak, then that breaking down process is much faster than the rebuilding. So with the chaos in our hormones and the decline in estrogen, that bone mass is accelerated, you guys, because estrogen has the bone protective function. But that bone loss really ramps up in the first 5 to 7 years of menopause. Other things that can speed up bone loss: your period stops if you're over exercising or just excessive exercise. Like a lot of female athletes have this, and I spoke a little bit about this on my last video. On the opposite side, you've got like a sedentary lifestyle. You're sitting a lot, which is the norm, right, for this current society. High alcohol, that's another one. Smoking, no surprise there, and sodas. What doesn't build bone density? This new trend, just walking around with the freaking weighted vest, does nothing except give you lower back pain and shoulder pain. It does burn like a little calories, a few calories, but that is pretty much negligible when you compare that to like resistance training, for example, like overall with resistance training. So the only way it helps with increasing bone density is if you're using it in combination with resistance training. Okay, so you don't have the weights and you can use that as a freaking weight. Also, low impact activities like walking, biking, swimming, they do not stimulate bone growth. The other thing is Pilates and yoga. These are great for balance and flexibility. So they can lower your risk of falls, but they do nothing for bone strength. So what actually builds bone density? You guessed it, you guys. I've already been harping about it for years. Resistance training, lifting weights, because it builds muscle. The more muscle you put on, the more it stresses your bones and it forces your bones to build back stronger. The second thing is high impact training. So you need to be careful with this, because if you don't have a foundation of strength and good form, then you could injure yourself. So Dr. Stacy Sims, I talk a lot about her. She talks about jump training. And that could be like jump rope. It could be box jumps, which, I like both. But I stopped doing box jumps because I injured my shin really badly. But jump rope, I love it. So anything where you can land like with a hard impact, this creates that adaptation for your bones to strengthen. And number 3 is just getting adequate nutrition through high levels of vitamin D, vitamin K, and calcium. So bone density is a huge topic, okay? It is massive. So I'm actually going to do a separate video just for bone density, and we'll go into detail on how you can protect your bones. But this is basically like an overview with the key points. Number 2 is muscle mass. It is your most powerful anti-aging asset. So Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, if you know her, she calls it the body's metabolic currency. It impacts your health, your independence, and disease resilience, especially as you age. In her book Forever Strong, which I read, she talks about how we don't have like a high fat problem, we have a low muscle problem. That's how important muscle is. Okay, and she shows us there are so many diseases and like metabolic conditions that can be prevented and even reversed by building muscle. Why does this all matter now? Because if you don't build muscle now in your 30s and in your 40s, then later on, just standing up from a chair can feel like a freaking workout. You're going to need help with little things like opening jars or carrying the groceries or climbing upstairs. You basically become like a liability. Your kids are not going to be like, yay, let's do fun things with mom, who we have to help lift from the chair. So muscle is basically like your body armor against aging. But we're also losing muscle as we age. In fact, muscle strength will peak like around 30 to 35, and then it's just a steady decline. And you know that with this perimenopause fat gain and the belly fat and your metabolism slowing down over 30, that is the result of low muscle. It's because your muscle is declining. It's metabolic gold, right? And that is slowing down your metabolism. So it's not like your metabolism is breaking down because of your age. Now, the most common bad advice I've heard about muscle is high rep, light weights, toning is better than heavy lifting. Muscle is basically a byproduct of strength. So if you're not lifting heavier, you're not challenging your muscles to get stronger, why do they need to get stronger? Why do they need to get bigger if you're not challenging them? Ditch the pink dumbbells unless they're like super heavy. So what actually works is lifting heavy, challenging weight. But here's the thing, okay? So women over 40, I've noticed, are uncomfortable with lifting heavy. Most don't know where to start, and they're too scared to go into a gym that is filled with all the young dudes slamming weights, correct? Now I see that the younger female generation, they've caught on already to the benefits of lifting, and they are flooding the gyms. It is so nice to see all these younger women at the gym. So that is awesome. I never saw that like a few years ago when I was lifting. So there's more women in there now, and in the actual weight section, not in the freaking cardio section. If you're scared to start lifting weights, but you want to start lifting weights, do not jump straight into heavier weights, okay? You're going to injure yourself and then you're going to give up and you're going to be like, I never want to do that again. So you want to start with body weight exercises at home. You can use bottles of water, which is what I recommend to my clients who've never lifted before. And then you could fill up like a backpack with canned tuna, tin food or pasta packs or canned beans, any of that. Then you can go into resistance bands, and then you can start getting maybe adjustable dumbbells, because your strength is going to grow very, very fast. You need to build your form and your foundation first. This is really important. And don't think that you're missing out by spending all this time building up your form, because the first year of lifting weights, you're going to see much faster progress than someone who's been lifting for years. Your muscle growth is going to be way faster than them. So you are actually at an advantage if you start. The second component to building muscle is just having enough protein. So as you get older, that need increases. So to build muscle, you need about 1 gram per pound of your body weight. So I'm around 130 pounds. So I get around 130 to 140 grams of protein a day. You do not need excessive amounts of protein. Okay, so save the rest for your carbs and for your fat. If you just get 3 meals with 30 to 40 grams of protein, and then you add one high protein snack to that, and then a second high protein snack on the days that you're exercising, you're easily going to hit that number. No problem at all. Again, building muscle is a vast topic, so I'm going to do a full video on this soon as well. So I'm going to show you how I structure my days of lifting weights, impact training, and walking for recovery. All of that, including the nutrition that goes along with building muscle, and how I structure my meals. So if you're interested in that, just stay tuned, right, to all my videos. Now, neither bone nor muscle can flourish if they are constantly being broken down. So that leads me to the next point number 3, and that is stress. Stress is tricky, right? Because we just spoke about how stress is important to build bones and muscle. Okay, you stress the body with resistance and high impact training, so the body learns to adapt by getting stronger to handle that stress later. You also need stress when you wake up, because your cortisol actually peaks when you get up to keep you alert and ready for the day. But too much of a good thing can become a bad thing, right? Like if you drink too much water, for example, that can actually be life-threatening. So you've basically got anabolic and you've got catabolic. So anabolic meaning growth and catabolic meaning breaking down. And chronic stress, like high cortisol, that is catabolic, meaning it breaks down muscle, it breaks down tissue, it weakens your bones, it messes with your hormones, and it destroys your recovery. Again, over 40, our stress levels are just going up, right? Because our bodies find it very hard to regulate stress when it's up and bring those stress levels down. Why? Because the hormones that regulate our stress are actually declining. So I'm not sure if you watched my video where I talked about my journey at 41, where I was extremely stressed and it practically just destroyed my life and my health. Stress, you guys, it is a silent killer. So if you've been trying to do everything right with your food and your workouts, but you don't manage your stress, then you're actually taking steps backwards. Okay, so here's some popular bullshit advice. Do more cardio to burn off the stress. Too much cardio can actually raise cortisol even more. Another thing I've heard is a glass of wine can relax you, which is also false, because alcohol can actually disrupt your deep sleep. It raises your cortisol and it hinders recovery. So what actually works then? You want to try to maintain your circadian rhythm, sleeping at regular hours, waking up at regular hours. And again, Dr. Sims talks about this. That helps you just sleep better and recover better. The second is intense exercise. Now, I do not know of a single person who started lifting weights and then complained that they couldn't sleep. Your sleep just massively improves when you're moving. And lastly, recovery tools like saunas or cold showers, especially before bed. That's a big one that is super helpful because it brings down your core temperature. You can sleep better. And also meditation and deep breathing, super helpful. And all of these can bring your stress levels down. Now, how do all of these three connect? You build more muscle. Muscle builds more bone. And then you've got low stress and recovery, which helps muscle repair and flourish. So these are not three separate pillars. It's basically like a dynamic system and exactly what I base my trainings on. So let's recap, right? What do you need to focus on if you're over 40 for optimal health? One is bone strength with weightlifting, high impact training, and the right nutrients. Second is muscle mass, again, weightlifting and protein. And number three is stress management, rest, recovery, smart training, and sleep. Now, if you're over 40, it is not just about looking good. It's about building and preserving these core pillars that let you live well, age well, and just stay independent. So if you found this helpful, you need help, you don't know where to start, you need help with a blueprint made especially for you that you can just easily follow instead of having to piece all the information together, just send me a DM on Instagram at hotmomproject40+, send me an email at ramona@hotmomproject.com, and I will reach out to you to see if I can help you